You look at Ohio State. Is this the single greatest run to a championship we have ever seen? You start with Tennessee. You dismantle Oregon, right? Now you've beaten Texas. Those are three of the best teams in the country. There's no way to even spin that. I think this is one of the greatest runs we've ever seen in college football.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly what Ryan Day needed. I mean, I think coming into this season, obviously, all the questions about, whether Ryan Day was going to last or whether, he should be fired or where the program was going or, what the situation was going to look like. And all Ryan Day did was go out into the portal this past offseason, go out and get Will Howard, continue to develop his defense. And all of a sudden, they're in a situation where they have a defense that can make plays and an offense that is dominant. And that ultimately is why they're able to beat some of the best teams in the country. I know this is rocket science, but when you stop the other team and then you go down and score, that's how you win a lot of football games. And Ryan Day has figured that out. And I think that the hard part is going into the Texas game, I still had reservations about whether this team would show up or whether we would get, another epic choke job out of Ryan Day and Ohio State. And I think they answered those questions. And I think, after beating these three teams, like I don't think we should be questioning Ryan Day anymore at this point. Like I think he's got his team peaking at the right time. I think he deserves credit for how they show up. He deserves credit for, getting his team to bounce back from the Michigan loss earlier in the year. It would have been easy to fold. So yeah, I mean, I think this college football playoff has been extremely compelling. I think Ohio State's gone on one of the best runs in the college football playoff era that we've had so far in terms of who they've had to play. And I don't see any reason why at this point, when you're playing a Notre Dame team who can't score points, why you shouldn't win a national championship.
Yeah, and I look at Ohio State and I look at the adversity. The loss to Michigan is still inexplicable. But you look at the domination that we have seen, especially on the defensive side of the football. I thought it was very apropos for Sawyer to get that strip sack on Quinn Ewers and run that ball all the way back to kind of seal the win. I mean, it just feels like all of the stars have aligned for a football team that for a lot of this season didn't live up to the expectations. And certainly the expectations were lofty, but how could they not be with all of the talent that is on this roster? And you listen to Ryan Day talk about his team, and you listen to Ryan Day talk about his talent. And it's remarkable to me that you have a guy like Will Howard, who K-State fans just didn't want anymore. They threw Will Howard out of Manhattan, Kansas, just as soon as they could. And it's remarkable to me that Will Howard goes from a tearful last look at K-State to the accolades of Ryan Day and the Ohio State Buckeyes and pretty much all of their fans. What a run for Will Howard.
Well, I think when you look at the guys that we have in our program, you see guys who are tough. You see guys who are resilient. And you see guys that care about each other. You see guys that love being Buckeyes. You're seeing two of them right here. Both guys here have two different stories. One just got here. But like when I see him get around our team, when I saw him on stage tonight, when I saw him embracing everybody in the locker room, like this guy loves his teammates. He's only been here a year, but in such a short period of time, he's made such an amazing impact on our team. He's made an impact on me.
I mean, it is unbelievable. And then you hear Will Howard talking about that final drive. Has this guy not been a Buckeye for life?
Yeah, it was a great play and a statement drive. We needed that. We've been beating ourselves all day with penalties and just getting behind the sticks and that was a statement drive, man. And the O-line did a heck of a job on that drive, and I think guys stepped up and made plays, and obviously what the defense did on the next drive sealed it. But they bailed us out all game, and I can't say enough good things about this guy sitting next to me and about our whole defense because they played their tails off today.
They really did, and I think we talked about this leading up to this game. Ohio State's defense, Texas's defense. You knew this was going to be that type of game. And again, the Sawyer strip sack, obviously that's what people will remember. this Ohio State defense is elite. It is fast. It is physical. It is disciplined. And you have the weapons. You have a guy in Will Howard who's got an unbelievable complement of wide receivers. Travion Henderson breaking off another huge play. Like, you have all of the ingredients you need to be a championship football team. And the question now is, can Ryan Day prepare his football team to beat Notre Dame? And I don't see any reason that they cannot. Because, again, and we're going to talk about Notre Dame in a minute, this Ohio State team is they're just murderers row. And you listen to Quinn Ewers. Listen to Quinn talk about losing 2 years in a row, and just listen to the despair, the depths of despair in Quinn Ewers' voice.
Yeah, it's tough. I think Coach Sark hit it. It's the life of a competitor, and it sucks being on this side of things for sure. I mean, back-to-back years, pretty much the game decided in one play. And, it's hard. It's hard. All the work that we put in, being in the Final Four back-to-back years and coming up short 2 years, it's tough. But I think that's how life is. You're going to get punched in the face and in some hard moments.
Man,
Brutal.
You can and he's right. It's been one play 2 years in a row. And to give up that strip sack against Ohio State to your former roommate, that is gut-wrenching. And I think Sark is where Ryan Day was after the Michigan game. Can Steve Sarkisian win the big game? We're not asking that about Ryan Day and the Bucs anymore. And I think that's a significant change. I don't know how you don't favor the Buckeyes against Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you watch the Texas game for Ohio State, you watch that game and you come to realize that Texas took Jeremiah Smith away, and Will Howard still found a way to get it done. They were still able to run the football. They were still able to score enough points and hold Texas down to go out and win that game. And I think watching the Notre Dame Penn State game, I look at that game and I say, man, these are two just awful quarterbacks who can't throw the football down the field against good defenses. And somehow, some way, Riley Leonard and company find a way to get a score here, score there to win the ball game. It was not convincing. It was very much in question until the end. So to me, I think that what you said last week still rings true, which is Ohio State and Texas was the national championship game. I look at this Ohio State team, and yes, Notre Dame's got a great defense. Yes, they do. One of the best defenses in the country, but that's not anything new for Ohio State. Ohio State's been playing the best defenses in the country. Ohio State's been seeing the best competition they can see. Yeah. So I would agree. I think it would be shocking for Notre Dame to beat Ohio State to win a national championship. It would be the upset of upsets, in my opinion, just because Notre Dame can't score the football on the same level Ohio State can. And again, against Penn State, what was Notre Dame doing? Not moving the football, and their defense was having to play the game of their life once again just to be in the game. And that's, to me, why I just don't think you can have a lot of confidence in Notre Dame to win the game.
Yeah, and I think Texas is very good. Is Quinn Ewers, is he better than Will Howard? I think they're very similar. I don't think that Texas was out-talented. I think Texas got out-executed. I think that you got beat by a team. And when you're as talented as Texas and Ohio State is and are, it's going to be moments that win the game. Moments created by really good football players that are really well prepared. That's what you saw. And I do think that while the strip sack is the one we'll remember, I think that throughout the second half, Ohio State was just a better football team. I don't think that it was, he got, this, or the Travion Henderson play. That's a moment that was created throughout that game. And to have that moment on top of the Sawyer moment, on top of, like, you had your best wide receiver, and I want to, because I still can't believe this, Jeremiah Smith had 1 catch for 3 yards.
Yeah, they took him away, man.
And you still won the game. That's depth. That's quality. Like, so I think Quinn Ewers is a good quarterback who's not elite. I think Will Howard is a very good quarterback who has not played his best football yet. That's the thing that really scares you if you're a Notre Dame fan. A lot of these cats at Ohio State have not played their best football yet. And I love the Ohio State story. I think losing to Michigan should have ended their season, could have ended their season, would have ended the season for most teams. You don't recover from a loss like that. You don't recover from the BS that happened after that game. Yet Ohio State did. And I guess we can wax poetic about their story.
Well, I think one other thing too that to that point, like if you go and you go on YouTube or wherever you like to get your content, and you find the post game press conferences and you watch them in totality, you begin to understand that like Ryan Day was asked directly, like, hey, how good does it feel, that Michigan flag planted on you guys and now you're going to the national championship game? He didn't even acknowledge the question.
No.
I mean, he didn't even, like, they're not even, like, in that space. Like, they're just focused on moving forward,
It never
winning the
happened.
national championship game. Like, that's where they are at. And I think that's why they're having success. And I think that's the hard part, like, for I think Michigan right now and Ohio State and this rivalry is that, yes, Michigan got them this year in a game that they should not have won, but somehow found a way. And Ohio State has still persevered and pushed through. So I think the conversation that we're probably going to have after, next Monday's game, national championship game, I believe it is the 20th. If Ryan Day and Ohio State find a way to win a national championship, which I think they will, now I got to start having a conversation about Ryan Day and what his picture looks like, because we've gone from this dude should be fired, everything sucks, the program is terrible,
Can't beat Michigan,
to now can't beat Michigan, wins national championships, and that Michigan game now looks like a fluke. And that's the hard part is, I think for Michigan fan moving forward, that's not going to be a fun conversation with you based on where these two programs are at.
Yeah, I agree. And then there's Notre Dame. And we've talked about this all year long, and we've talked about this mediocre offense. I jokingly on this show say, what do we call it? Told you so Monday or whatever it is.
Yeah, I told you so Monday.
I think that Penn State Notre Dame game played out just as we told you it would. I mean, you're looking at two offenses that are offensive. They're bad. Those are bad offenses. And you look at Riley Leonard and Drew Aller. Stop with this nonsense about Drew Aller, top NFL quarterback.
He's not even close, dude.
Stop. There's a reason he's coming back. And in my opinion, you look at Riley Leonard and you look at that Notre Dame offense, there's nothing impressive about the Notre Dame offense as a total picture. I look at Riley Leonard and he is exactly who we thought he was, a guy who cannot throw you to a victory. That was against Penn State. Ohio State's defense is twice as good as Penn State. You actually have corners who can cover. You have physical safeties who are disciplined. I think one of the biggest mistakes Penn State made against Notre Dame, overran the football constantly. And when I look at the differences between Ohio State and Notre Dame, you have a far more experienced coaching staff at Ohio State. I look at Marcus Freeman. Look how bad Notre Dame was in the first half. And what did we see? Chaos on defense. Not set.
Just look confused and unprepared.
Not in the right formations. Not set up at the snap. Guys moving and running across the formation as the ball is being snapped by Penn State. all of the ugliness I've talked about all year long with this football team reared its head in that first half. They made fantastic halftime adjustments. But even at your best in the second half, can this Notre Dame offense compete with Ohio State's defense? And the answer is they cannot. Because this Ohio State defense does not need man over the way Penn State did. Does not need it.
Yeah.
You can have 7 guys in the box for 4 quarters because you're talented on the back end of the defense. And I think that's what Notre Dame's going to get, because why wouldn't you?
Oh, and I think, watching the game, like, the Drew Aller interception at the end of the game there to seal the game, that's one of the worst decisions I've seen any quarterback make in the college football playoff this year.
No idea what you were thinking.
Yeah, I don't know where you were throwing that ball. I don't know what you were looking at. Don't know what you saw there. And I'm not going to say it's all his fault. They only lost the game because he threw that interception. I'm not going to say that, but I think his quarterback play just was not good. And everyone wants to say that this guy's like a top 5 pick in next year's draft. And I'm sitting here saying right now he's not. He's got a lot of work to do. And he's got a lot of work to do at a school that typically puts out running backs, not wide receivers. And to me, I look at this and I say, okay, well, Riley Leonard's not exactly a world beater either. And I think it's interesting. Riley Leonard leaves this game to go through concussion protocol, and your backup comes in and looks better than he does. And I have to say, watching that, I'm sitting here saying, man, this does feel like exactly what we said it was, which is Riley Leonard is a sweetheart deal of sorts to go to Notre Dame. Hey, you came in, you played one great game for Duke against Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman falls in love with you. You're everyone's All-American. You're a great guy, great leader. I'm not taking that away from you, but you're just not good enough to go out and win a national championship. And my fear is that playing against Ohio State's defense, you're going to see 2-3 picks out of Riley Leonard. You're going to see some turnovers because they are that good. And that's why I think Notre Dame is not really all that close in this game.
And the thing that I say is, and I know that my Notre Dame brothers on this show will get on me and say I'm too negative, but it's what I say, whether you're Lamar Jackson, I don't pick your quarterback.
Oh, I don't know, Jaden Daniels?
Can you stand in the pocket and deliver the football with the game on the line? That's the question I have. And if you are a running quarterback and you are supposedly one of the dominant running quarterbacks in the country, you can't average 1.9 yards per carry against Penn State. Because again, Ohio State's defense is twice as good, twice as fast, and twice as physical as Penn State. And you average 1.9 yards per carry. 18 carries, 35 yards. That's not going to get it done against Ohio State. Riley Leonard, if Notre Dame's going to win this game, Riley Leonard will have to throw Notre Dame to a win.
Mm-hmm.
And I will continue to tell you that who's your best receiver? Probably Mitchell Evans. At Notre Dame, our best receiver is probably Mitchell Evans. And not to keep telling you I told you so Monday, I warned you about Mitchell Evans. That's your weapon in the passing game. And he dominated. But the problem is Penn State doesn't have linebackers who can run with tight ends. That's all Ohio State's got. That's all they have is linebackers that are faster than your tight ends. So I want to, and I'm sure as the week goes on, I might find some matchups.
Yeah.
But when you look at Notre Dame's passing offense, Mitchell Evans is your best receiving option. Is he a down threat? He's not a downfield big play threat. He is a threat on the boundary, and he's a threat in the middle of a zone. And I don't believe, this is just my opinion, I don't believe Ohio State will play zone against Notre Dame.
No, they have no need.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I don't think you're going to see a lot of zone out of Ohio State unless it's garbage time, unless you're at the end of the game and you're up 3 possessions and it's just not, you just have no need to play man. You can just sit back and zone. But yeah, I mean, I think if you've watched Ohio State, it's pretty clear how they're going to play Notre Dame's offense. They're going to play man coverage, and they're going to put Caleb Downs in the middle of the field, about 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and they're going to let him free flow and play the game. And that's what terrifies me. Now, if I said, hey, Notre Dame's got an elite pocket passing quarterback who understands how to read a defense and manipulate a defense with his eyes, then I think this game is a lot closer. Then I still think Ohio State wins. Agree. But now I'm like, hey, maybe this is a one possession game. But Riley Leonard just is not that guy. And just to be clear, I love him as a dude. Like, he's a great guy, great teammate, a great locker room guy, like everything you want in terms of a competitor. But skill set wise, that's just not his game. And that's unfortunate, because I do think that while I tend to lean your way with Marcus Freeman, in the sense that, yeah, this guy has progressed a lot, but man, he was a really raw coaching talent. This guy had to go through some really dumb, stupid mistakes as a coach to learn, and he's doing that. And I think that's why it's not his time. He's still learning. He's still trying to get better.
And when do you generally make those mistakes?
In big games, big moments against great teams who are better than you.
That's exactly right. Marcus Freeman on the win over Penn State.
It was going to be a battle, and we didn't have great production in the first half, and it was a 7-point game. And I told them, we get the ball the first series of the second half, and we just got to go out and execute on this play. But I wanted them to understand we did not play to our standard in the first half, and credit to Penn State for what they did on both sides of the ball. But it was a 7-point game. It didn't feel like that going into the locker room, but it was a 7-point game, and our guys went out there and performed that second half.
And I agree. It didn't feel like Notre Dame was winning that game or in position to win that game. But yeah, I know that we've talked ad nauseum about Marcus Freeman on the show. I know we've talked ad nauseum about the lackluster toothless offense that Notre Dame has. That has not changed, and I think that was on display against Penn State. And the thing that I'll say is Penn State does not complete a pass to a wide receiver against Notre Dame,
which is just wild.
You're not. This is going to be a completely different game than you had against Penn State, and I think the defense is up for the task. I think Notre Dame is a defense that tackles really well. Notre Dame's susceptible to speed down the sideline. That is one of the biggest weaknesses in this Notre Dame defense. They are susceptible down the boundary to speed, and I think that you have that at Ohio State. You do. I'm not concerned about Travion Henderson breaking you off for massive runs. You look at the numbers. The one thing that without question that Penn State does very well is they run the ball. And you look at the numbers, Penn State ran it for 204 yards. And when you get into how that happened, that really happened with Nick Singleton scoring those 3 touchdowns. So what does that tell you? You can actually run on the Notre Dame defense. So I think when you start comparing, and I've seen this a lot with Notre Dame fans over the last couple of days, oh, we're just as good as Ohio State's defense. No, you're not. You're not. And I just, the proof is in the pudding. A week from tonight, we're going to find out.
But let's say you were. There's no question Ohio State's offense is superior. So either way, you're behind. That's the problem.
I would love to sit here and tell you, as you hit the like button right here on the Monty Show, and if you're watching on X, good morning to you, Facebook, Spotify, come on over to YouTube. Just Google search The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. It'll pop right up our YouTube channel. Hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And again, I just tell you, you're looking at 2 coaches. And I don't know that anybody would describe Ryan Day as an elite head coach. I don't think anybody would. But you're looking at 2 coaches that are vastly different when it comes to their resumes. Ryan Day has been here. Mm-hmm. Ryan Day has done this. Chip Kelly has been here. Chip Kelly has done this. Their talent, they're deep, they're upperclassmen. Like, Notre Dame has never been here. This group of coaches has not been here. Marcus Freeman has not been here. These players have not been here. And in these biggest moments, in national championship games, having been there, having played, having coached at these levels matters. And I think if you look at the Ohio State talent, you're talking about Will Howard, who's played in plenty of big games.
He has.
You're talking to, and I'm a big believer, and I don't mean to get philosophical on that ass, but I'm a big believer that you learn so much more from losing than you're ever going to learn from winning. Ohio State has had traumatic big game losses. Ryan Day, over his career at Ohio State, has had traumatic big game losses. You feel like they're seasoned now.
Yeah.
Right? You feel like the brisket is now resting, just waiting to
Slice that thing open, raising the national championship trophy.
That's what I feel like Ohio State is.
Yeah, this isn't a big game for Ohio State. That's the problem. Like, the big game was Oregon, right?
Yeah.
The big game, once you beat Oregon,
100%.
once you got off
100%.
of that, now it was like, oh, hey, we just dismantled Oregon. Now let's come in and play the same kind of football against Texas, and we'll win that game by 2 scores. And obviously the Sawyer strip sack, ends it in iconic fashion, because I do agree that, assuming they go on and win the national championship, it's a historic moment that will not be forgotten.
And you think about the history of Ohio State football. That's one of the biggest moments in the history of Ohio State football. And isn't it fitting that Jack Sawyer had the moment?
Yeah. And so I just think that Ohio State, if you want to call them seasoned, if you want to call them prepared, if you want to call them experienced, whatever words you want to use.
They're a veteran roster.
They're a veteran roster that Ryan Day only, and I love this too. I have to say, I love this portion. All the hyenas that said, oh, $20 million NIL roster. He bought all his players, even though most of his defense is 3-4 year guys now, developed in the program. Like people love to hate on Ryan Day. And I have to say, I understand it. He's lost some games he shouldn't have lost. But if this dude goes out on Monday and wins a national championship, it's time to start calling him an elite head coach. It's time to start saying, yeah, this guy, maybe he doesn't beat Michigan enough, but my God, he wins national championships, and he knows how to develop talent, because that's why they're here. He's developed 80% of that roster. 80% of that roster has been there. Now, he brought in Caleb Downs, obviously. He brought in Will Howard. He brought in those finishing touches to really complete this roster. But let's not take anything away from Ryan Day by saying, hey, they have the most money, so that's the only reason they're here, because I just don't think that that's a fair assessment.
I think when you look at Chip Kelly, Brian Hartline, certainly Jim Knowles on defense, this coaching staff, it's just built the right way. That's why I say it. And I'm not hating on Marcus Freeman. Again, I have criticized Marcus. The thing that worries me is everything that happened in that first half is everything I described that's wrong with this football team.
Yeah.
They were not prepared. They couldn't get the balls in the defense. They were have a defensive lineman running onto the field and the ball's already been snapped because you only had 10 men on the field because you were it's that stuff that continues. Now, didn't happen in the second half. You were a much better football team. But you'll be down 21, 24, 27, nothing if you do that against Ohio State. As simple as I can say it.
Yeah.
It is, and I love Notre Dame. I have said this 1,000 times. I grew up as a Notre Dame fan. I am so thrilled that this team is back to the national championship game.
Yeah.
But again, I ask you, with all the money and all the recruiting, and how is Riley Leonard our quarterback? How is Riley Leonard the starting quarterback at Notre Dame?
No idea. How is your backup better than your starter?
The Dylan Gabriels at throwing the football. Riley Leonard, listen, and I know why people are saying that. Riley Leonard is not a gifted passer. He is a gifted leader, and he is a gifted athlete. He is not somebody on third and 8 is terrifying to me as a Notre Dame football fan. 3rd and 8 is the worst down in the history of football for Notre Dame.
Yep.
With Riley Leonard at quarterback, if you are not productive, and in the first half against Penn State, and anybody who watched this game, they were not productive on 1st and 2nd down.
Mm-hmm.
And why were they not productive? Because they don't have the ability to take the deep shot. They don't. And Penn State, the same. I warned all of the pedophiles about Drew Aller. I did. I warned all you pedophiles about that. I took great joy in walking out of the sports book at Aria at the half. And I don't remember what had happened. They turned it over or something.
Yeah.
And getting up and standing up in the Aria Sportsbook and screaming the word pedophiles brought me great pleasure. Right? It made me, Jake wanted to run and hide, but I felt very good about it.
Bro.
What?
It's so bad. So uncomfortable.
But how no, it wasn't though. Because a lot of people clapped and laughed when I said
They did,
that.
but I just was like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Listen, I think the Penn State win was our championship night. That was as good as it's going to get. It was awesome to watch it together. We were watching the game together. It was fantastic, man. It was really, really good to get upset and we were watching the first half of the game at Nora's Italian in Las Vegas. May have been some hand slamming on the bar, but to sit there and watch that game and have some great rigatoni and have some great bruschetta and aquapana, how you don't like Nora's in Las Vegas is appalling
you
to me.
keep saying that. I
just
Nora's.
don't understand it. I do not. All right, let's get to the comment section on the Monty Show because we also have to talk about Marcus Freeman as a Chicago Bear coaching candidate. I'm not ready for that traumatically. And in my arc of therapy, of sports therapy, I'm not ready for that yet. The comment section is always presented by Prize Picks, prizepicks.com. The best daily fantasy app. It's why tens of millions of Americans play daily fantasy every single day at Prize Picks. Download the Prize Picks app. Let's Prize Pick the Ohio State Notre Dame game.
Well, just the Ohio State game.
Let's Prize Pick the Ohio State championship celebration. Because that enhances your in-game experience.
Yes.
I love Prize Picks. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more instantly. It's that simple. Download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty to open a new Prize Picks account. You deposit $5, they'll give you 50 more instantly at Prize Picks.